Hello everyone, welcome back to another layout update. Over the past couple weeks I've been doing a lot of work down here, not only on the layout, but the whole basement in general. And as I said in my last update, I have gone in and redone pretty much everything on the layout. But before that, I'll go through sort of what I did step by step to get this place looking a lot better. The first thing I did was I moved the layout a little more than a foot away from that wall, so that not only could I access that wall, but so that in the future I could access a lot of the layout better. And I'm very glad that I did that. It doesn't really take up too much extra space after doing that, and it will make layout work a lot easier. Beyond that, I've done some cleaning, mostly just organizing stuff that really doesn't need to be shown right now, but just kind of getting the basement looking a little better. Then after that, I redid the wall back there, and I think it's fine. It's not super professional, but it's a little bit better than having the black spots of paint that were on there before. After I sort of finished cleaning up down here, I actually started work on the layout, getting things together a little more permanently. Of course, I ended up taking a lot of the stuff that is on the lower level off of the layout. It's still sort of junked up in there, but a lot less than it was before. A lot of the things that are in there, weirdly, are just there temporarily. I didn't really have a better place to put them. But the first thing I did was I took the existing pieces of benchwork I had and screwed them together pretty much. Just put some clamps on there and screwed it together so that it's more rigid and won't move around too much, which is especially important when I'm putting on the plywood, which I've already sort of done. The next thing I did was I got rid of this part of the layout. Number one, because I just felt like I didn't need it anymore. I was going to put all the industry and yard tracks on the layout anyways, inside the inner loop, and I decided that it probably wouldn't really be worth it to have this extension anymore. And besides that, it was also in the way of that door. The door opens into the other room, so clearance wasn't an issue, but it's just not great to have something in front of the door. It was maybe about here, significantly making this passageway a lot smaller. And since it wasn't serving a purpose, I just disassembled it. And what I almost immediately started doing with the parts was making this benchwork a little better. You may recall that I made these legs a few months ago, and the benchwork over here was very much smaller. You can go back to some of my previous updates to see how it didn't really support the whole part of benchwork here. In fact, it did such a bad job supporting it that the plywood actually started to bow over here because it wasn't supported, and that's where a lot of the weight was from the trains running. So I ended up just taking a lot of the lumber from that old section and put it into here. Fortunately, I didn't end up having to cut anything, which, you know, always good to avoid that, for me at least. This is a lot better than it was before. I actually have a third crossarm, I guess you could say, in this frame. 2 frames as opposed to on the previous piece of benchwork here, which only had pieces laterally going back and forth like that. But as you can see, it's relatively sturdy. It's good enough for what I'm doing. You can still see a lot of the old layout that's under the plywood here. Speaking of the plywood, not long after I built that section, I wanted to start securing the plywood down because I just want to get this layout moving. I want to be able to have the tracks up and running, and I wanted to be able to do it right the first time in terms of the benchwork. So I did take my time, but I still wasn't super leisurely about it. After making sure all the benchwork was okay, I sort of shored up the plywood, tried to make sure that it was all going to be as straight as possible, and there were going to be as few gaps as possible. There's still a few gaps, obviously, because you can't cut anything completely straight, and there's always going to be impurities, especially with what I'm working with. But I just went through with the level and looked at most of the layout, pretty much all the layout, and it was all level. And if not, then it was reasonably within the acceptable tolerance for being level. Again, there's more work to be done, but for now, I mostly have the benchwork down. The way I attached the plywood is literally just running a screw from the plywood into the, I guess you could call them studs, but just the benchwork itself. It might not be the most professional thing, but I don't know how else you'd attach it. So yeah, it went pretty good, and it's very sturdy. Shaking it pretty vigorously here, and it's not really moving a whole lot. Also, once I put this piece in, I realized that I would definitely need to have some sort of support under here, and I didn't really want to build another piece of benchwork just for this small extension, because I'm eventually going to cut that entire piece off so it rounds with the curve, at least as best as I can get it. So I just found these shelf braces, I guess you could say, and they are now supporting this part of the layout. Call it overbuilt if you want. I think it is a little overbuilt for what it is. I have that extension, and it's all bracketed in there, so it's pretty sturdy. Everything sort of holds everything else up, and it's pretty good, so I'm not complaining there. Obviously, as you can tell, when I was working on the benchwork, I had the entire outer loop set up so that I could sort of work within the tolerances of the loop, make sure that there's ample clearance around the loop for anything that I want to put on the outside of a curve or anywhere else. Track work is yet to come. It's probably going to be a couple weeks until I actually get the track in and running, but I'm very happy with the layout right now. It's in the best state it's been so far. Everything is pretty sturdy, everything is level. Again, it's not perfect, nothing really is, but it's as close as I can get it, at least now. And I've learned a lot from the previous layout, and I've been able to apply that to this layout. That's pretty much it for this layout update. I know that maybe for some of you it might have not been super interesting because I was just talking about bench work, but it's a very important part of a layout. It's quite literally your framework, your base for everything else that you're going to do moving forward. So I just had to make sure that everything was going to be as good as I can get it, and that I wouldn't have to go back and fix anything with the benchwork later on. Of course, it's not 100% done. I'm going to end up trimming around bits of plywood that are unnecessarily jutting out like this. I just was too lazy to take it out and cut it now. I'll do that later. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of see if I would be able to fit the outer loop on there, and I certainly have. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.